Now this is so valuable for your professional life, but this is extremely valuable for our personal lives too. The gray rocking method is a strategy to deal with challenging people. Does anybody know anyone who is a narcissist? Or at least you think they are? Are any of you narcissists? Okay. How about substance abusers? Do you know any substance abusers? How about just Karens or Kevins? Yeah? Toxic people. You deal with any people like that? Okay. How about people with personality disorders? Okay. Very good. So, if you can learn this, this is going to make you extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. You will feel more powerful. You will feel powerful to be able to develop relationships with anybody if you can learn this well. Okay? So I'm going to walk through a few of these. Here's the most important thing, and one of the hardest things of all. It's why it's number one. You have to remain emotionally neutral. How do you remain emotionally neutral? Remember what I said earlier about knowing who you want to be at the end of your life? Your value? Just say one value you want to be known for. That's how you do it. No matter how somebody else treats you, you know exactly who you are and who you want to be. Period. You ever been with a significant other who was naggy? A little bit of smile? Yeah? Anybody been in a relationship where they were a taker and you were the giver? And no matter how much you gave, they kept taking? Anybody? Anybody been in a situation where somebody beat you down, called you names, treated you poorly? Yeah? How hard is it to remain emotionally neutral? Have you lashed out back? Do you give them the business? Do you let them know? They tell you you're awful, you tell them they're awful back. You ever done that? I've done it more times than I've done it right, to be honest. But knowing who you are, being clear about what you value, and living that out helps you remain emotionally neutral. When somebody is accusing you of things, treating you poorly, treating others around you poorly, you have to first make sure you do not allow that to affect your identity and your own value system. Remain emotionally neutral. It is easy to talk about at 2:45 in the afternoon on a Thursday. It's hard to do in the moment. Number one, remain emotionally neutral. Number two, focus on the problem at hand. Nothing personal. Nothing personal at all. Do not go in if they start, I'll give you some methods here in a second. But if somebody starts going personal, you go right back to the problem. You can even say something like, hey, we're not doing, you can just put your hands up. Hey, we're not talking about personal things, and I'd invite you to stop. What we're talking about is this problem. We're going to deal with this problem right now. If you continue to talk personally, I'm going to have to write you up. I'm going to have to get security. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. We are not talking personally. All right, next. Be bland. All right, so what's a bland thing? You never listen to me. You ever heard that? Somebody tell you that? Here's an answer. Here's a bland answer. I do my best to listen. I do my very best. That's it. Nothing more. Nothing more. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to justify yourself. You do not need to try to convince a toxic person, a narcissist, someone with personality disorder, somebody who is selfish, that you are who you are. You say it, you're done. That's it. When you have employees coming to you and complaining, oh my gosh, the amount of complaining I've heard around here at times. My gosh. That's got to be hard to deal with. Like just those attitudes, that would drain my powers. It really would. So here's the recommendation. Somebody complains to you about pay. Hey, listen, they're paying us what they pay us. Because if you engage, guess what happens to you? Guess what happens to your energy? Yeah, it's pretty soon. You're ready to storm the castle. We're going to take them all down. Because that's how the energy works. Somebody comes to you to complain and you're like, yeah, you're right. You're not helping them. How is that helping your staff member get better? Not at all. But if I'm bland, they pay us what they pay us. What? But you don't like it. They just pay us what they pay us. But. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm just not going to engage in this conversation right now. That's it. That's the bland answers that you give to toxic people. You do not engage. Now listen, here's just something for me. I never, ever want to exchange my value for kindness, for rudeness, for blaming, complaining, deflection, or excuses. I am still kind when I say it. I'm just not engaging it. I can do that because I know who I am. If you know who you are and you know what you value, there's nothing to this. And it makes you so powerful because I've done this for quite a while, and you'll see somebody just kind of give up. And on top of that, here's what happens. For example, gossip. Y'all hear about gossip. Well, you wouldn't believe what Sally said over there. She's out on the weekends. You wouldn't believe what she's doing. Oh my gosh. You know, I really don't feel comfortable talking about other people. Well, I'm not, here's what people do. Well, I'm not talking about them. I'm just saying. I'm just speaking facts. Yeah, I just really don't feel comfortable talking about it. You know what happens? For at least my experience, they don't do that to me anymore. Thank goodness, I don't have to hear toxic energy about other people. But the second thing they do is they usually come back, well, no, I actually like her. She's cool. I was just saying. They start changing their position. Be bland. Don't engage that garbage. It's trash. All that is dressed up trash, and it's going to tear you down. Now, can I ask you a big favor? Seriously, a big favor. All this stuff is good for us, but I know many of you in here are trying to practice this stuff every day. Please take this and pass it on. Teach one person on your team the Gray Rocking method. One person, your best, whoever your best employee is, take this and teach it to them. People don't know how to do this. A lot of people want to be successful, don't know how. So teach this stuff. Be bland. Bland. You have to learn your voice with this. This makes you powerful. This makes you impervious. Somebody toxic in your life. Now, some of you are in relationships with toxic people. Do this. Eventually, they'll stop. They will stop. They'll get bored with you. They're going to get tired of, man, it's like everything I try to hit them with. I mean, they're hitting you with the 1-2s and you're playing rope-a-dope. And they're getting tired. Use these bland responses and say no more. And if they keep up, here's all you do. This is sometimes the best thing to do. Somebody keeps going. You just look at them and you say, I'm done with this conversation. I'm not being rude. I'm not disrespecting you at all. I'm actually being wildly respectful. I could eviscerate you and rip you up one side and down the other about how toxic and narcissistic you are and how awful you are as a person. Kevin could go off on you, right? I could do that. It is completely honorable and respectful to simply say, I am done with this conversation for now. That's it. If it's an employee that keeps going, you can say, you know what, I'm done with this conversation. I'd like you to go ahead and clock out, grab your stuff, go to HR, and we're gonna have a nice write-up for you before you leave for the day. You do not, look, truth is truth no matter how you say it. You can say it mean, you can say it kind, You can say it with a monotone voice, and the truth is still the truth. I just recommend you say it kindly, because you'll feel better about it and you'll feel more powerful. All right, next thing, avoid reacting to provocations. So if someone does something like poke you, push you, touch you, put their hand on you in a way that you do not like, first thing you want to do, you back up, you put your hands up. Hey, listen, I cannot allow you to do this. Now, if you're like me, though, you put your hands on me, I want to react pretty quickly. I do. It's just nature. I want to hit you right back. Now, I will tell you this, and I don't know all your policies here, Kathy. You can correct me and tell me I'm wrong. It's on video. I just said this. Disclaimer, I do not know all the policies here. If somebody is coming at you and trying to hurt you, defend yourself to the best you know how, okay? Do not allow yourself to be treated and hurt, okay? Do your best. But try to avoid provocation at all costs. You take a step back. I cannot allow this to continue. Security. And you go from there. Security knows what to do. If it escalates pretty far, you have to call law enforcement. And then I do know people who have been banned from Mountaineer in my younger years. I don't know how it is now. It wasn't me, by the way. There's no picture of me anywhere. But I do know people that have been banned from here for a year. So I know that is probably in the cards if someone acts poorly. Setting boundaries in relationships. This, I don't know if any of you have done any of this with your team at all. The best thing to do to get ahead of a problem is to be proactive about it. How many of you have gotten with your teams and decided the value you want to be known by as a group? Crickets. Okay, you got to set boundaries. Your values are boundaries. Okay? So what we want, as far as our environment is concerned, relationships are all built by values. My dad used to say this saying so much that I give him credit for it. Is he said that relationships are the bridges over which values are transferred. Values are the protective guardrails in relationships. For teams of people, the first thing you got to do is decide what values or value you are going to live by as a group. Everybody's got to have a say in that. You can't just go, we're going to live by kindness, and somebody goes, oh, you can tell me I'm going to live by kindness. What you want to do is go, hey, let's talk. Listen, we all know the type of environment. We want to have a good work environment. We all want to show up for one another. What value do we want to be known for in our department? Have the conversation. Some of you are thinking, well, no one's going to care. You don't know that. You don't know that until you try. That is a guardrail and a boundary against toxicity. Because if I know, for example, if we say loyalty is going to be our value, we talk about, okay, what does that look like in our department? You start talking through it. And let's say somebody doesn't show up to work for whatever reason. The Browns lost. It's going to be every week for a while, right? I just don't understand how they have so much talent and they can't get it together. I just don't get it. Anyways, let's say somebody calls off. We said we want to be loyal to one another. They call off on a whim. You pull them in someplace private. You go, listen. We said we were going to be loyal. You were here. We decided together. And you called off. And now everybody else had to make up for you not being here. Could we try a little bit better? We want to live by this value. Call them out on things that they agreed to. But you get how you set those boundaries, you get agreement. Now, boundaries are you saying to them, after you set values, it's you telling them what you are going to do. So as a leader, if they were to say, loyalty is our value, I'm going to go, okay, well then here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call you out. I'm going to call you out if you don't live this. All right, is that cool? Everybody cool? Yeah, in the room when you're all deciding, they're all going to be cool with it until you do it. But you say, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call you out. I'm going to talk about this a lot. I'm going to talk about loyalty. I'm going to talk about what loyalty means. I'm going to talk about what it'll do for you. I'm going to help perpetuate this value. After a while, the more you talk about loyalty, the more you show them how it's lived, the more I throw flowers at you when you live it. If I see someone living loyalty, I'm going to throw flowers their way. I'm going to edify them. I'm going to tell them how good they are, how great they're doing. Pavlov's classical conditioning still works to this day. If you give somebody a good name, they're going to live up to it. It just works. So I set that boundary, but I tell them what I'm going to do if they breach the boundary. I tell them ahead of time. It's no surprise. Give it a shot. All right, next. Maintain a neutral tone. Now, we've talked about this. You have to find what works for you. There are people on your teams that annoy the crap out of you, right? Yeah. Maintain a neutral tone. They are going to know. If you don't find a neutral tone, come on, if you're annoying somebody, the way they respond to you, you know it, right? You feel weird, you feel off. They're going to know it. So you got to get the neutral tone. We can't treat one person better than another simply because we have a preference for them. That's not right. I don't care about the word fair. It's a made-up term. It's garbage. There's right and there's wrong. It's wrong to treat one of your team members better than the other because you like them more. Do we do it? Sure. We need to catch it. But maintaining that neutral tone helps to keep an environment of unity and trust. So we got to maintain that neutral tone. And then next, be patient, and most of all, be consistent. Oh, man. I think it's so interesting when a leader is not patient or consistent, is mad that their team is also not patient or consistent. It's crazy. It's insanity. If you're negative as a leader, your team's going to be negative. If you complain, your team's going to complain. If you don't show up ready to go with good energy, your team is not going to show up and with good energy. They're just not. You have to be patient to know that if you are doing the right things over and over again, the more consistent you are, the more people will start to think, behave, and communicate like you. If you're not consistent, forget about it. Now, if you have not been, if you've been a negative Ned or Nancy, if you've been the type of leader who complains about your leaders here, complains about the environment, complains about patrons, complains about the food, complains about the weather, complains about your dog. If you've been that person, here's all you got to do. 2 words are the most powerful words in the world. I'm sorry. You get your team together and you go, you know what? Today's the day that turns my life around. I want to tell you all I'm sorry. I have not been myself. I've allowed negative energy, I've allowed negative things, negative environment to affect me, and I have not reacted right. You all know it if you're doing it. Makes you sick to your stomach. You're in an identity crisis, a dilemma. I can see it all over people. Like, it's just, I get it. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm going to do better from here on out. Would you mind doing it with me? I'm going to invite you to come with me. But watch me be consistent from here on out. I'm going to be consistent. And I'm also going to set a better environment for us. I don't want this stuff anymore. I am telling you, I'm not going to gossip anymore. I'm not going to come in here and be negative anymore. I'm not going to have a negative attitude anymore. I'm not going to blame, complain, deflect, or make excuses anymore. I'm going to do better. I'm inviting you to come with me. What's the alternative? What is it? Then last, seek support. Got to seek support. If you're dealing with toxic people, another thing my dad used to tell me that I really appreciate, he would say, leadership is a lonely place. It's lonely. You got to seek support. You got to get somebody, someplace, somewhere that you can talk to. And what I would tell y'all is, if you want to talk to each other as leaders, that's great. Do it. But make sure it is confidential and it does not get out. If you can't trust that somebody else is going to keep it confidential, don't talk to them. Worst thing I could do is go to Gabby the gossip and talk to her about my issues, knowing she's going to go gossip. But you know what? She feels good to talk to. And then pretty soon everybody else knows my business, and now my team hears how frustrated I am with them. And that's a mess. So seek support. Your environment's hard. This is tough. What you do is tough. So the gray rocking method, emotionally neutral. Focus on the problem, nothing personal. Be bland. Say it, be done. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't. Take your stand, be done. Well, why do you feel that way? I just do. Why don't you react? Because I don't feel it's right to react. But you're not getting mad about this? I'm choosing not to react. I'm choosing not to be mad. But don't you feel terrible about the way they treat us? I'm okay with where I'm at right now. Everybody's got the ability to do this. Next, avoid reacting to provocation. Remember, step back. Hey, I cannot allow this to happen. You're encroaching my personal space. You're going too far. You're going too far. This has to be done. Set boundaries. Remember your values. And I like this with boundaries. Within the context of a relationship, there's some people, I think I told you this in the communication section. You got 3-minute friends, 3-hour friends, 3-day friends, and lifelong friends. You got very few lifelong friends. You got maybe a handful of 3-day friends. You have a whole lot of 3-hour friends, and then numerous 3-minute friends. Okay? Within the time and the boundaries that I have with like a toxic person for me, I will give them 3 minutes. But in that 3 minutes, I am going to give them my very best. I'm not going to treat them any different than I treat my lifelong friends. I'm going to treat you the exact same way. But you get 3 minutes. And that's it. All goes down. Set boundaries for yourself. If you're around toxic people a lot, you got to set boundaries. You got to bounce. Get out of it. I can say it because I've done it. So I can speak about it with authority. Y'all, telling you, you want to have a better quality of life, especially here at work, start to set boundaries with the toxic people. Well, your life's just going to get better. It just will. Hang around people who you enjoy being around. And if people are being negative, cutting things down, be bland, but set boundaries. Maintain that neutral tone. Talked about that. Be patient, consistent, and then seek support.